entertained? Are you not entertained?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is the Whiskey Jedi podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Hope everyone's doing great out there. First off, right off the bat, I apologize for the little bit later show tonight. Bo's getting a little bit older, so he's staying a little bit later, and I'm gonna have to find some better times to do this. Tonight it's an 8 p.m. show, which to me doesn't hurt too much, but I know that there's a lot of people that watch the show that obviously can't tune in live because it's a little bit late. So if you are here, much appreciated. Thank you guys for being here. Excited to be back. It's been 2 weeks since I've done a show. It's been very, very busy. The reason why I did not do a show last week is because it was Bo's first birthday. He officially turned 1 year old, which is crazy to think about. Just absolutely insane to think time has flown by that quickly and that he is already a year old. Yeah, it's like crazy. So he had his birthday on Wednesday, and then we had a party on Saturday, and we were pretty much taking the whole week trying to plan out and finalize everything for his birthday party. So, yeah, crazy last week. But I'm back. I'm here, do another show. Very, very excited to be back in here, talking a lot of fun things. I do want to say that there's been so much news lately, just in the world of movies and television, like every genre. It feels like there's something coming out every other day, if not every day. And I could have easily done another just straight comic book show this evening and focused on all the news regarding Marvel and DC and stuff. And I decided otherwise. I wanted to talk about some other things. I also have a show planned out where I kind of want to talk about everything horror and maybe talk about some of my favorite Halloween movies and stuff. But I've been wanting to do this topic tonight for a very, very long time. And I was actually going to do it last week. And then I decided otherwise to do a show. And so tonight we're going to be fan casting Atlantis, The Lost Empire, one of my all-time favorite animated movies. I'm very, very excited to do this. I always love talking this movie. I always love recommending this movie. If you have not seen it, it is a Disney movie, so it's on Disney Plus. It was in essentially their forgotten era, if you will, their experimental era. And it's a beloved movie of mine, and I'm going to be fan casting pretty much the main characters. Not every single one, but there's a good chunk of them. I think there might be 10 of them that I'm going to fan cast. So we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show, but I'm going to go through the first topics pretty quickly because I do want to get to that because it could take relatively long. Not like super long, but I definitely want to leave some time for it. So we do have some fun things to talk about up top. Obviously, there's a lot of things happening in the world of film and television. And tonight I'm pairing tonight's conversation with some Elijah Craig small batch. And if this bottle of whiskey looks big to you guys on screen, that's because it is. So this actually holds a little bit of a special place in my heart. This was the whiskey that we decided to go with for our wedding a couple of years ago. When we did our signature cocktails, Gabby did a margarita. I did a maple bacon old fashioned, and we did Elijah Craig. One, because it's a great blending whiskey, but two, they have the big bottles at Costco. And this is the very last bottle that we have from our wedding. I literally just cracked it open. It's been sealed. It was dusty and gross. I wiped it all off. And so we're going to be enjoying some Elijah Craig tonight. Very, very, very solid whiskey. This is the small batch, straight bourbon, 94 proof. They have a ton of options available, but this is always a good go-to. So check out Elijah Craig if you have not. Very, very good whiskey for a pretty decent price as well. And you can either drink it straight or you can make a cocktail with it, which can't really complain when you can do both of them. So, but yeah, I hope everyone's doing great. I don't want to take too much time. Yeah, Booze, does it feel like a year, a month, or it honestly feels like it was just yesterday that he was born. It does not feel like it's been a year already, but time is it's like whipped by. It's crazy to think that he's already a year old. Yeah, it really is true that like time flies when you have children. It's pretty non-existent at this point. So, and I do want to mention as well, on top of his birthday, the poor kid had a double ear infection last week. So we were kind of going through the ringer on top of his first birthday. I gotta say, these freaking pop figures, as you can see, one of them just fell over, and this little thing, I love it to death, but I'm about to throw it away. That is Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok, and she will not stand on her own. She just won't. All the rest of them are fine. She won't stand on her own. She keeps tipping over, and it's really starting to get on my nerve because I love the costume, I love the pop, but like, man, if you're gonna keep tipping over on me, I'm gonna have to boot your ass. So, all right, let's get into it, everybody. Let's go ahead and do our first topic of the evening. I remembered my clips. I remembered my overlays. First up is the Rings of Power. The season 2 finale aired last week, and we have the entire season to discuss if we want to. We are not going to, because the whole season, even though the whole season in a whole was pretty damn impressive, I must say, it's really the last 2 episodes that matter the most, mainly the finale. But the last 2 episodes were by far the best episodes the show has produced to this point. I think I've mentioned it here. If not, I've mentioned it on other shows, but I was very, very just kind of bummed out with the first season of the show. I thought obviously it had very high expectations to meet, but I felt like the quality was not there from what we were promised. And when I say quality, I mean storytelling wise and character wise. Obviously, it was beautiful to watch. Like, the cinematography was incredible, the visuals were incredible, like, obviously, but there was just a lot of things going wrong with the story and characters in the first season. They have completely flipped that on the head with season 2. It is really, really good. I'm honestly shocked that I have this type of reaction for it. There wasn't really an episode that I can think of off the top of my head that I did not enjoy. And I was thoroughly invested in the story that was happening for one specific reason. They focused on what needed to be focused on. The first season was very Game of Thronesy, right? There's 4, 5, 6 different stories going on with a dozen different characters across Middle Earth and outside of Middle Earth. We still get those in season 2, but now it's all broken up into percentages. And the story with Sauron and Galadriel, Elrond, Celebrimbor, that is 80% of the story of what's happening now. Maybe less. I'm just throwing a number on it, but they're in every episode. They're in a big chunk of every episode. And it's nothing against Numenor or and I'm not going to throw the dwarves into this, because I thought the dwarves story was told very, very well, because they were looped in with the rings. The dwarves were the first one to get the rings that were created by Sauron, or Sauron helped with Celebrimbor. But they focused on what needed to be focused on. That's plain and simple. The pacing was great. The characters were more likable. I wanted to spend time with them, which was a huge issue in season 1. It felt like this was the show they promised when they announced it. And just going forward to the final 2 episodes, really, really incredible storytelling. I mean, when it came down to character choices, to action beats, timing, the pacing, just how they planned everything out, I was very, very impressed with the final 2 episodes of the show. I thought it was very well done, and I thought where they ended everything was really, really good. Oh no. Bo may not be sleeping. Oh no. I thought the ending of the show and how they set everything up going forward was pretty damn fantastic. I loved how they had everything with, and I always forget the city, the Celebrimbor city's name, because their names, a lot of the names are so like mixed up and intertwined. Um, I know it starts with an E, Arion, or something like that, but I love how a lot of the climactic stuff that happened in Aragon, that's what it was. That's how you pronounce it. Um, I love how everything was like coming to a head there. And let me just, this is coming from someone who does not know the history. I don't know where, like, obviously know where it's going because I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies, but I don't know action beat for action beat of everything from when this started to the Lord of the Rings, of like character paths and locations, and I don't know any of that. So I loved how Eregion was kind of like the main centerpiece of everything because it's important. Like, it's an important part of this history. It's a very massive city in Middle Earth, and it's the home of Celebrimbor, who is not quote unquote the Lord of the Rings, but he's the greatest, inventor in the history of the elves. And so I just loved everything coming to a head there, and all the characters essentially like rallying there, right? Because, and it didn't include Doran, the dwarves, and it didn't include stuff going on in Numenor, but it included Sauron and Galadriel and Elrond and the High King, and just everything was there, and I loved it. I was really eating it up. I really was. Um, the conversation between Sauron and Galadriel was fantastic at the end. They obviously have a very important relationship that um, needs to be really fleshed out on screen. And I thought they did a really, really good job of doing that. I thought everything regarding the rings was really interesting and intriguing. From the smallest of things of them making them, to the manipulation from Sauron, to the visions of Celebrimbor, to everything with Adar and Galadriel's ring, to Elrond not wanting to put it on. I mean, they really, really handled all of that really fantastic. And um, I'm very surprised. Like, I really am. But I'm very happy. Like, this is what the show was supposed to be. So, Rings of Power right now, absolute crushing. That, it hasn't been renewed for a third season, but it's going to be renewed for a third season, no doubt. I think I saw a rumor today that Amazon is aiming for 50 plus episodes of the show, which that would mean it would be 5 seasons, around there, which makes sense. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of story left to tell. Um, but yeah, I mean, the ending was great. The elves. It seems like the elves have fully decided on their path going forward is going to war for Middle Earth. That's what they're fighting for. Sauron has control of the orcs. That's his army, which we all know of, obviously. Now we just need to see him basically take over and be a part of Mordor, which we haven't seen yet, right? It was created at the end of season 1, but it was left, out there, not touched in season 2. And final thoughts here is, thank God we finally got confirmation that the stranger is Gandalf. We all knew it, right? Even I knew it, not knowing the history of this show and this story. I knew he was Gandalf. Like, it was too obvious to not be Gandalf. Like, obviously it could have been someone else, but, and I know people are probably arguing like the timeline, like he wasn't here or it's not supposed to be this time or whatever. But you know what? Coming from someone who doesn't know that stuff, I'm okay with him being Gandalf. Gandalf is obviously a wizard who lives a very, very long time. And now I'm very, very interested and curious about how he becomes this version of Gandalf, how he eventually transforms and becomes into Ian McKellen's Gandalf. When we meet him technically The Hobbit is when the first time in the timeline era that we've met him in live action. So, yeah, I mean, look, positive, very, very positive. So if you have not checked out the Rings of Power, if you've been curious about it, if you've kind of maybe been against it, I'm recommending it. I think that you would be surprised. The first season is obviously a little bit to get through. It can be a little bit draggy at times, but it really picks up in almost immediate fashion in season 2, and you're on for one hell of a ride in season 2. And this is coming from someone who isn't like a massive Lord of the Rings fan. Like, I like the movies, but I don't think they're the greatest things on planet Earth. And I am thoroughly enjoying this show. So, high praise here. Can't wait for season 3. And thank God Prime Video figured it out, because a Lord of the Rings show that was disappointing, it just did not sit right. It really did not sit right. So, Andy, and we've seen him in live multiple lives, excuse me. So I won't be surprised if he dies in this one too. Yeah, I mean, very, very possible. Very, very possible. Was it the elf that is fan of the Eagles? Sorry, Drew, I'm not sure about that. You're gonna have to ask someone in the chat. I don't know the history of Lord of the Rings, so. But yeah, I'm gonna move on because I do want to get to my Atlantis stuff. If you guys have any more questions about the Rings of Power, please let me know. I'm always down to chat. You know, my DMs are always open, obviously, on social media. If you guys have a question or something I can answer here, I would happily do so. But for now, that will cover my thoughts on the Rings of Power Season 2. I'm going to put a review of it up on Serialized now that I've talked about it here. Maybe write down some thoughts, give it an actual rating out of 5 stars, so you guys can check that out on my social media. If you guys aren't following me there, go follow me, because I love that app. It's the TV version of Letterboxd. So you go follow me on Letterboxd and Serialized. All right, moving on. Topic 2 of the evening. We got some really, really cool news with Prime Video, and one of the coolest 80 action franchises that we have, RoboCop, is officially going to television. Prime Video announced, I think it was last week, that they are going to be developing a live action retelling of RoboCop for TV, which I love. I'm a huge fan of this news. I'm really enjoying services. Honestly, like, Prime Video is probably the best at it at the moment, but I'm enjoying these services taking movie properties, because even during like the RoboCop era, but even probably like up until the late 2000s, TV wasn't as highly regarded as it is now. It was kind of deemed like the wasteland of actors, movie actors. If they weren't getting movie roles, they were getting TV roles, and it was kind of being like, oh yeah, no, that's not too good. Like, that's not a great sign. Now, like, TV's like the jam, like it's the thing because of production and the money involved, right? Studios willing to fork it out for this, and obviously the streaming services, the ability of Prime Video, Apple, Netflix, Hulu, all these services, they are now able to create really high quality, highly produced television shows like they weren't 20 years ago. And so, even though RoboCop has lived on the big screen, we've had 3 original movies and a reboot from 2014, which I secretly love, by the way. I love the fact that it's going to go to television, because even though it's a very violent, robotic, sci-fi, action thriller type story, at its core, it's still a cop story. And the majority of police shows or cop stories in general live on television, because it's a serial television story that you can tell. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be like a week by week, villain of the week type story. I'm not saying that, because I'm pretty sure, and I don't think it was confirmed, but I didn't know there was a TV show, actually. Yeah, I missed that one. I had no idea there was a RoboCop TV show. Let me look it up. Guys, I was born in the early 2000s or 90s, early 90s. Oh, it ran for 1 season. That's why. It came out in 1994. I was 2 years old. Okay, it was on Fox. So, oh, interesting. I had no idea. Okay, so it was on Fox. So we've already had a TV version of this show. I apologize. But the reason why I didn't know about it is because I was only 2 years old, everybody. So chill. But it ran for 22 episodes. Wow. That's a hefty, hefty toll. Okay, so I backpedal on that aspect. Uh, either way, I think that this. So if I compare 2024, or let's say 2026, because maybe that's when it's going to come out, to 1994, the quality is miles apart. Miles. It was never going to work back then because of him being in a suit, right? TV production compared to movie production back then, you were never going to be able to recreate what happened in the movies to TV back in 1994. You just couldn't. Now you can. You can make a film quality show on Prime Video for essentially the same price, and you have multiple seasons that's making a ton of money on a high value product like RoboCop. RoboCop is a very big name. Everybody knows about RoboCop. Like they do. Whether you've seen it or not, you've heard the name RoboCop somewhere. It would work. Like, and I think that they said that this is going to be a retelling of um the Alex Murphy story. So Alex Murphy will be the lead role. It'll be essentially similar to the original story, which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with. Um, but I just love the fact that we're going to be able to spend time with RoboCop over 8 episodes for 4 seasons. That's cool. Like that's really really cool. And it's original sci-fi. You guys know how I feel about sci-fi. It's action sci-fi. The original RoboCop movies are extremely violent, like extremely violent. I don't know if they will go there, but I would love for them to go there. I think that'd be really fun. Because we don't have like a super high violent show like that on like in the same vein. I'm sure there's something out there that is in a sci-fi action thriller like this that might be as violent, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But the original movies were super violent. If they go that far, cool, awesome. But if they go as violent as they do with Reacher, then I am totally okay with that because Reacher is great. And if they are able to recreate some type of magic they did with that show with RoboCop, this show could be a massive success. The Boys, thank you. Thank you, John. That's a great example. They will not go to the lengths of The Boys. They won't. I think they're not only because it wouldn't be necessary, but you want to leave that type of violence and vulgarity for that show, right? You don't want to do it with another Prime Video show, and then it kind of becomes repetitive, and it doesn't feel special if other shows are doing it just like that. There's definitely going to be some violence, but I'm thinking more in the vein of Reacher than I am The Boys. Thank you for bringing that up. Dino Park Dam, but we are far enough removed from it in time that it will feel new and fresh, which is good. Yeah, I agree. I think even far enough from the 2014 version. I mean, by the time this show comes out, it'll be at minimum 11 years, probably 12 years. That's a very hefty time. A whole generation has grown up by that point, and a RoboCop show would be completely new to them. So, I totally agree. All right, moving on. Next topic of the evening, one I'm very excited to talk about. We got our very first look at Ryan Coogler's new vampire period piece film, Sinners, which, of course, stars Michael B. Jordan in 2 roles. Count them, 2 roles. He plays twins. And like I said, this is a vampire period piece. Very, very cool that it's set way back then, decades ago, but that it's also a vampire movie because, unlike a decade ago, we aren't getting vampire movies every other month. 10 to 15 years ago, vampire movies were the new comic book or were the old comic book movies. They were coming out all the time, like all the time. And it very quickly just dried up. They weren't as popular, they weren't as good. And like many genres that go up and down and things change and kind of fluctuate, vampire movies have taken a little bit of a break. We get them every once in a while, but we haven't gotten like a very big, massive one. And It's kind of coming back a little bit with some other properties as well, which I'm very, very happy about. But I mean, look, it's Ryan Coogler, it's Michael B. Jordan. Uh, there hasn't been a Ryan Coogler movie that hasn't had Michael B. Jordan in it, which is kind of a cool thing. Not that he has like been the sole star of every single one, but he starred in Fruitvale Station, which is a very obviously very hard movie to watch. Um, he was Creed. He played Killmonger in Black Panther. He returned in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and then obviously Creed 2. Or no, he didn't even. Ryan Coogler didn't even do Creed 2. And now Sinners. So super cool that they continue to work together. They have massive success with each other. I loved this trailer. I loved this trailer. I thought it was incredible. And yes, I did watch it. I could not help myself because it was a teaser. I knew that a Ryan Coogler teaser film was not going to reveal anything, but I do have some ideas and theories of where it's all going. You know, there's a moral dilemma here. You know, Michael B. Jordan is playing twins. There's no possible way that both of them are making it out. And I'll even go as far to say that I think that one of them has been turned into a vampire at some point, and they're going to have to face each other. You're going to see Michael B. Jordan versus Michael B. Jordan, essentially, is what's going to happen, I think. I'm theorizing here. I think Haley Steinfeld is 100% a vampire, like 100% a vampire, because you won't be able to not like she's going to seduce some poor victim in that movie, and he's not going to be able to handle himself. The poor guy's going to die. And it's probably going to happen multiple times. But on top of like the story and how the trailer looked, I thought it visually looked great. I loved the setting. I've mentioned the setting a couple times. I think a lot of the shots that Ryan Coogler is doing is very, very well done. To a point where I think this movie has a chance of getting some very high recognition. Yeah, I'm very much excited for this film. I think that this movie could be a massive, massive hit, and be one of the better vampire movies that we've seen over the last, I'll just say, decade. It has that feel. It really does. The trailer was great. Trailer was really, really good. It looks crazy, chaotic, a little bit terrifying. There's a lot of similarities to past films. The biggest one being From Dusk Till Dawn, right? In From Dusk Till Dawn, they are basically in one location the entire time. And a large part of this trailer was focused around that barn sequence where it looks like they're surrounding the barn. So very, very cool there. And one of the biggest things I think a lot of people are excited about is that Coogler has mentioned multiple times how there's a lot of anime references and inspiration in the film, which is super cool to think about. That he's bringing that into a live action period piece vampire movie, and leave it to Coogler to be that creative with a property. But that's what makes him great, is he's able to bring something different to a property like this, whereas a number of directors probably wouldn't. But that's why he's one of the best. I mean, that's plain and simple. That's why he's one of the best. So yeah, I'll probably not watch any more trailers for that going forward, but I'm definitely going to be excited and watch it when it comes out. It's early 25, I think. I think I remember the poster saying March, either March or April, which puts it like 6 months away, maybe even less, because we're already in the middle of October, basically. November, December, January, February, March. So yeah, so about 5 or 6 months away, which is super cool, which is crazy to think about. I just can't believe 2024 is almost over. Like, the holidays are here, Halloween's around the corner, Thanksgiving, Christmas, like it's all here already. But of course, as a movie and television fan, even though it's unfortunate that the year is coming to a close in just a few months, it leaves us with a lot to watch. A lot. television and film wise. So it's bittersweet, but can't really complain when you love watching things and you're kind of given everything towards the end of the year. So, all right, let's get to it, guys. Let's go and get to the goods. Exactly what everyone is here for. We are going to be casting Atlantis, The Lost Empire, live action Disney adaptation, a movie that feels way, way, way overdue. And I will just say that if you have not seen this movie, first of all, shame on you for not seeing this movie. Second, after this episode of The Whiskey Jedi, jump into Disney Plus and watch Atlantis, The Lost Empire because it's great. But yeah, look, I'm going to spend time talking about 10 characters. Let me count them actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10. So I did 10. So I basically did so I'll just count them off. I did the main team of characters that we meet minus the two older characters. So I did Milo, Kita, Audrey, Dr. Sweet, Rourke, Vinny, the Mole, Helga, and then I did Kita's parents as well. Obviously, King Kashakim, if I'm saying that correctly. I haven't seen the movie in a bit, but King Kashakim plays a role in the film. And then Nina's mother, Kita's mother, Mary Nadok, Mary Nadok, that's her name. She obviously spends time with Kita in the beginning of the film. So those are the 10 characters I'm going to do. I'm not going to do them like alphabetically or in order of importance. I'm kind of going to set everyone up, and I'm going to do Milo and Kita last because I want to make sure you guys stay around. Good producing right there. So yeah, look, a lot of these characters, there's a lot of actors that can play these characters. And it's funny, when I was doing my research, I would have loved to have done this like 5 years ago because it would have drastically changed. Like drastically. Mainly because of the age of some actors and actresses, right? You kind of have to look into a certain age when you're casting some of the characters. And it would have looked far different 5 years ago with some of the roles, maybe not all of them, but with some of the roles. But either way, I think I've come up with a great list of people that could play these roles. And I'm going to pull up the notes app on my phone because I have them listed out, just making sure. And I'm going to start with Kita's father, King Kashakim. And this was probably one of the more difficult ones I had casting. Because a lot of people could play this character, and I just had a tough time just figuring out the two that I could see playing this character. And I'm truly, I still don't feel 100% set on who's playing this, but I think it's good enough and decent enough, and two actors that fit the age and could very well rock a long white beard in Atlantis. So the way I have it laid out is because I'm going to put an image up before I show it, and on this side of the screen you'll see a picture of the character, and then on this side the top person will be my number one choice and the bottom person will be my second choice. So I brought two picks for each, but I have a number one and a number two. So essentially what you can think of it as my official pick and my honorable mention pick. And I simply did that because there was like one or two of them where I just really couldn't decide. And so I ended up going with two of them for each. But yes, King Koshkim, I have Billy D. Williams. Yes, Billy D. Williams as my number one pick to play this character in the live action version of this movie. And then, as you can see there on screen, but I will make sure I say it for my audio listeners, Forrest Whitaker as my honorable mention. There's obviously a number of actors that can fit this role. Um, there are a number of incredible actors at this age that would fit this role and play this role. It's not like the biggest role on the planet, but it's big enough to where you can get a name like this. So again, I have Billy D. Williams as my number one pick, and then Forrest Whitaker as my number two, aka honorable mention. Um, Two solid picks, and I already see Big G mention Idris Elba. Idris Elba crossed my mind. If you want to go for as big as you possibly can, Denzel Washington was an option, right? Um, I mean, there's a lot of actors out there that could play this role. There are. It's one of the ones out of this group that's very, very open to a number of different actors because it doesn't really require a lot. Um, it requires you to kind of be present for a little bit and then have a relationship with a daughter on screen, and that's about it. You know, as King of Atlantis, obviously he has some type of power over the people, but and the live action role could always be a little bit more than what the animation was, but he was he was one of the lesser involved characters out of everything when it came down to everything. So, yeah, that's my King Kashyyyk. Moving on to Kita's mother, and her name is Mary Nedok. And I had one picture in mind, one person immediately to play this role. And earlier, when I had said that I wish I would have done this 5 years ago, that's because this person playing Kita's mother was the person I saw playing Kita 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Someone that would have been just perfect in the Kita role 5 to 10 years ago. So for Mary Nadok, I have Zoe Saldana as my number one official pick, playing Kita's mother, and then I have Naomi Harris as my honorable mention. And Naomi Harris has been in a number of films over the last decade or so. Obviously, a large part of the recent Bond franchise. Played Calypso in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Very, very well known actress that I love, and I don't think gets enough credit personally. And I try to throw her in there as much as I possibly can. So. Yeah, Zoe Saldana as Kita's mom just would be perfect. Like I would love it so much. I think it would be such a killer choice. It would obviously be a very small role, but she has a relationship with Disney, right? She's in Avatar. Disney now owns Avatar. She was in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, even though it didn't end well. She's obviously a large part of the MCU. So yeah, Zoe Saldana, I think would be a perfect choice for this role. Cree Summer, who's that, Andy? I don't know if I've heard that name. I'll probably recognize the face. Oh, I know who Cree Summer is. Oh, that's because she voiced her. I see what you did there. I see what you did there, big boy. Oh, she played Kita. That makes sense. Got you. I see what you're doing. Trust me, hey, I love the original just as much as you do, but I want Disney to stop making, musical live action movies, and I want them to actually make a legit live action movie of this. Stop making The Lion King and Hercules and Aladdin and all that, and make something like this. Prove to us that you can actually do it. But I hear you. Man. All right, let's go and move on to a character that is such an interesting role in the movie, but could definitely have a much larger role in the live action movie, and that is Helga. This is one of the other actors or characters that 5 years ago would have looked massively different. And there are two names that instantly came to mind to me that I feel like might be a little bit too old, but are so prototypical to Jake Berlin. And they're not my choice, but obviously Charlize Theron and Scarlett Johansson would be great Helgas, like great Helgas. But they're not my picks. They're not. Charlize Theron is like, it feels like Helga was modeled after her. My picks though, my picks. I love my picks. My official pick is Ivani Strahovski, who was in the show Chuck. She is in The Handmaid's Tale. She was in a movie with Chris Pratt recently called The Tomorrow War. So Ivani Strahovski is my number one official pick. I think she is such an underrated actress. I actually wanted her to play Captain Marvel way back when. I thought she was going to be a perfect choice for that role if they did it early on, like they were supposed to. And then my honorable mention is Catherine Winnick. And the reason why I did Catherine Winnick is because of her role in Vikings. She is so brilliant in Vikings, as Lagatha, Queen Lagatha, and I would love to see her get more roles, more bigger roles like this. I think both of these actresses would kill an opportunity like this. So yeah, Ivani Ostrovsky, I think, is not like a very recognizable name, but she's a recognizable face. She's been killing it on The Handmaid's Tale over the last what feels like a decade. I don't think it's been that long, but it feels like it's been that long. Very, very important part of that show. She's had a few other roles while filming that show, but like I mentioned, she was on Chuck when that was on television way back then, and she's been in a couple of other small things here and there. It's so funny. One of the movies that pops in my head that she was in, it's so bad, but she was in is I Frankenstein, um, with Aaron Eckhart. Yeah, she was in that, which obviously doesn't bode well for her. But a lot of actresses have, or a lot of actors in general have those type of movies that they want to forget, and I think I Frankenstein is probably one of them. So, all right, moving on to the mole, one of the more fun characters of this movie to cast. And before I reveal my picks, uh, no one shame me for why I'm picking one of these people, please, because they're perfectly fitted for this role and they're an incredible actor. And I think it's probably something that you would do as a studio executive or a director. But my number one pick for the mole would, I actually love this casting a lot, and I don't think it would ever happen. But the mole would be Mark Hamill. Stay with me. Mark Hamill as the mole. Coming up with that voice, the just absolute chaotic circus that he is, that would be incredible to see. And then my honorable mention is Peter Dinklage. I think Peter Dinklage would fit this role very, very well. Not because of that reason, everybody, but because he's a really, really strong actor. Again, has a little bit of a Disney background, and it's very different from the type of role that he typically chooses, because it's so different and out there. It requires a very different type of acting, and I don't think I've ever seen Peter Dinklage in that type of role. Right, very serious in Game of Thrones. Um, he was very serious in the most recent Hunger Games movie. But either way, he would have to lose out, or he'd have to beat Mark Hamill for that role. And I think Mark Hamill would be perfect for that role. You could find a way to do it. I don't know how you would do it, but you could definitely find a way to do it. I think it'd be awesome to see Mark Hamill as the mole. I mean, it'd be fun. See him alongside all these other characters. All right, moving on to Vincenzo, the dynamite expert of the group, the explosives expert, which is why he's included in this party, the hunt for Atlantis. I'll say it with no problem. This was by far the hardest character I had time casting, and it's because of the I wanted to try to stay true to the background of the character of him being Italian and having that very strong accent. But I don't, obviously it's very difficult because there's not a lot of mainstream Hollywood Italian actors, and if they are, they're a little bit older. Uh, so I tried to stay true to the look a little bit, but I also went an interesting route that I think would be fun to see both of these guys dive into a role like this. So for Vinny, my official pick would be Adam Driver as Vinny, and then my honorable mention would be Tom Hiddleston. Uh, and I would request nothing but Disney to make them do that haircut. You could see that visually if you're watching. If you're on audio, you can't see it, but just Google Atlantis: The Lost Empire Vinny and look at the haircut and tell me that Adam Driver or Tom Hiddleston wouldn't look incredible in that haircut. Yeah, look, it's obviously a little bit different, but two very, very good, strong actors that could very well fall into the role and adapt to what the role requires of them. And to see both of these guys again, similar to the mole role, Vinny's very out there. He's very different. He deals with explosives, and it would be really cool and fun to see both of these guys kind of do that, which is why I ultimately went with them. So, see, Andy, Adam Driver is Vinny. That'd be cool. That'd be a lot of fun. All right. Moving on to let's go to Rourke, the villain of the story. Another role that 5 years ago would have looked very, very different. 5 years ago, there was a very obvious choice, and honestly, you can still include this person in the role, in the running for the role if you were to ever do this movie, but it would obviously be on a timeline. Stephen Lang as Rourke, he visually looks like him, but it's very similar to the role he has in the Avatar movies, or at least the first one, which is why I think a lot of people choose him. I did not choose Stephen Lang. I wouldn't mind it, but it's not my first choice. I chose one that feels very on the nose, which is my official pick, and then my honorable mention. James Garner. Interesting, James Garner. My honorable mention is a little bit younger than what I would expect for Rourke, but someone that I feel is very, very intimidating and can be very, very good in this role. So my official pick would be Josh Brolin. I think Josh Brolin would be great in this type of role. Seeing him venture to the villain side would be a lot of fun. You know, we've seen him as Thanos before. Can we see him as this type of role? And then, as you can see there, my honorable mention is Alexander Skarsgård. Again, a little bit of a younger version of Rourke, but someone who is military hardened and very, very intimidating when he wants to be. I mean, if you've seen The Northman, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, Josh Brolin and Alexander Skarsgård in the running for Rourke would be pretty cool. I mean, I would not hate either of them if I'm being honest. I think I would go with Josh Brolin. I think it would be fun to see him in that role, but it would also be a lot of fun to see what Alexander Skarsgård could do with that role as well. Yeah, I know Brolin's the boring pick. I know he is, but I actually looked at a lot. I just liked I liked him in that role. I know he's the boring pick, but there's just something about it. You know, some of these have to be a little boring. You know, you have to have some of these like this, and I think so far this is probably the most boring and the most average. You know, what everyone thinks of, and I'm okay with that. So, all right, we have 4 left. We're gonna do Doctor Sweet next, and Doctor Sweet I had a lot of fun casting. I went back and forth on a couple. I even flipped the 2 guys that I have once or twice, but ultimately, what I decided on for Doctor Sweet, Makad Brooks, who is currently playing Jax in the Mortal Kombat movies. He was also a large part of Supergirl. I have him as my official pick as Doctor Sweet, and then Winston Duke as my honorable mention. And honestly, I really go back and forth a lot on this pick. Like, should Winston Duke be my official pick? Because after seeing him in The Fall Guy, I am all on the Winston Duke train. If he gets more roles like that, I am so for it. And Doctor Sweet is very much a role like that. So yeah, Makad Brooks as my official pick and Winston Duke as my honorable mention. And I think Winston Duke doesn't get enough credit either. He's great in the Black Panther films, and I can't wait to see more of him. And I hope he has a larger role, but I don't know how long that'll last for him. So I hope he starts getting more roles similar to the Fall Guy and some other stuff, so we can kind of see what he's able to do. And this would be one. So, All right. Another. Let's see. Let's go to Audrey next. Now, Audrey, honestly, probably is my favorite castings I've made so far. Um, and honestly, might be of the entire thing. Uh, the two actresses I have for Audrey might be my favorite picks of any of the characters I've made. And again, just like the Zoe Saldana pick, these two came to mind almost immediately. So for Audrey, the mechanic of the group, the young mechanic, I have Isabel Merced as my official pick, and then Amber Midthunder as my honorable mention for Audrey. Two very, very good young actresses. Isabel Merced, if you don't recognize the name, she's been in a ton of movies. She played like a 12, 13-year-old in a Mark Wahlberg Transformers film, but she was just in the most recent Alien film. She's going to be Hawk Girl in the DCU for James Gunn. She'll be in the new Superman movie as Hawk Girl. Um, and she was also in a movie with Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne called The Family Plan. It was a family comedy, which she was very, very good in. But she is a very good young and up and coming actress that's going to get a lot of work. And seeing her as Audrey would be awesome. And then my honorable mention, Amber Midthunder. The biggest role that she would be known for is her role in Prey, the Dan Trachtenberg Predator film that came out a few years ago on Hulu. She was the lead, the star, the central plot point, and she was incredible. And so I would not argue against either of these. I really wouldn't. Two very strong choices. But ultimately, my official pick would be Isabel Merced, and then my honorable mention would be Amber Midthunder. All right, we're going to move on to the two big ones here. We have Kita and Milo left. I'm going to go with Kita first. We're going to do Kita first. And when you Google, fan casting Kita Atlantis, there really are just a few names that pop up the most. I didn't go with those. So I didn't go. Let me take this off the screen. I didn't go with Zendaya as Kita. And spoiler alert, I didn't go with Tom Holland as Milo. Those are the most conventional, easy picks out there. That's what everybody wants to see. That's what everybody's picking. Tom Holland and Zendaya. It would obviously work perfectly, right? They both fit the roles very, very well, but I didn't go with those. So my choices for Kita, let me just make sure that I'm pronouncing her name right. Where'd it go? There we go. So my official pick for Kita would be Ella Balinska, and my honorable mention would be Taylor Russell. Now, two kind of unknown names. Ella Balinska was a Charlie's Angel in Elizabeth Banks' Charlie's Angels from a few years ago, and she was by far the standout of the movie to me. I thought she was great, like really, really good, and she was the action specialist in that movie. I think she would fit the role of Kita great. She obviously fits the build. She's the age. I would love to see her take on this role. She doesn't have major roles or, is in mainstream, and this would definitely give her the opportunity. Now, Taylor Russell has been making a hit all over indie films, but I first saw her in the Lost Space television show on Netflix. She plays one of the Robinsons in Lost in Space on Netflix, the new version. Ran for 3 seasons. By the way, go watch it. Great sci-fi show, space sci-fi show. It's awesome. But Taylor Russell, yeah, she was just in a film with Timothée Chalamet as well. Two young actresses that definitely fit the build, are very unconventional, but I think could really, really crush it as this character and would have a great opportunity to kind of put like a very large role on their resume, something that neither of them really have at this moment in time. So again, Ella Balinska as my top choice and Taylor Russell as my honorable mention. All right, last but not least, we're going to do Milo, and then we're going to do my movie recommendation and get out of here. But Milo, as I mentioned, Tom Holland has been like the conventional choice from the beginning. He fits the role. We get it. And look, if he got casted as Milo, I wouldn't hate it. I really would. I like Tom Holland a lot. I think he's great. He's in the Disney family. It would obviously make sense, but I don't know if he would do it. Um, and so one of my choices, my top choice could be like, okay, that's another boring pick, but it's a choice that like I can't stop unseeing. I can't stop unseeing this actor play this role. And then the other role is kind of going off of the current popularity of things, but I really, really just like the kid. I think is a really good actor. Doesn't really fit the role, but I would love to see him be the role. So my top official pick would be Andrew Garfield. I think Andrew Garfield is like perfect for this role. Seeing him as this quirky character of Milo would be great. And then, as you can see there, my honorable mention would be Austin Butler. And Austin Butler has obviously popped up like so crazy lately. Um, he played Elvis a few years ago, but he played Fade Rothau in Dune Part 2. He was in another movie called The Bike Riders this year. He's going to be in a lot of movies upcoming. He's rumored to be in a Pirates of the Caribbean reboot for Disney. But I would love to see him try something different with Milo, because Milo was not a role that Austin Butler would typically be looked at for. Nerdy, quirky, glasses, stumbles over on his own feet. I would love to see what he's able to do with it. Andrew Garfield, obviously, he played Peter Parker. Like, it's okay, awesome, but he's played these types of roles before. But again, I just can't not unsee him being Milo. I think he would be a truly perfect choice for Milo, and he would be able to bring the chaoticness that Milo brings to the screen as much as anybody else. So, yeah, my official pick there for Milo would be Andrew Garfield, with my honorable mention being Austin Butler. So again, let me just go ahead and run through them real quick. I'll reveal my top picks of these characters before I move on to my weekly recommendation. But King Kashakim, we have Billy D. Williams. Mary Danak, we have Zoe Saldana. For Helga, we have Ivani Strahovski. For the Mole, Mark Hamill. Vinny, Adam Driver. Rourke, Josh Brolin. Dr. Sweet, Mikad Brooks. Audrey, Isabel Merced. Kita, we have Ella Balinska. And Milo, we have Andrew Garfield. I mean, that's pretty good. I'm not going to, toot my own horn, but I'm going to toot my own horn. I think I did a pretty damn good job, you guys. I think it's great. I think a lot of these actors fit the role very, very well. There are some of them that are very different that could definitely be creative with the role, which I am totally okay with. But I'm very happy with my casting. And if it came out tomorrow that this was the official picks, that all 10 of these were the people chosen, I would be over the moon excited. So, yeah, that's gonna cover my Atlantis, the Lost Empire fan cast. Before we get out of here, quick movie recommendation, because it is October and spooky season. I had to recommend a horror thriller, a fun movie that I watch every single October. It is one of my all-time favorite Halloween films, and that is Ready or Not. If you have not seen Ready or Not, I cannot tell you, like, please go watch Ready or Not right now. I shot a TikTok on it earlier, actually, telling people to watch it, and it's on Hulu. It's available on Hulu right now. But the best way I can describe this movie is that it's a violent, tortured version of hide and seek. I don't want to give much away, but essentially what happens, Samara Weaving is the lead role. She plays the main character. She marries into a family, and this family, every year, they have to do a ritual. Basically, use a sacrifice to knock off a family curse on a yearly basis. And they draw a card. and we haven't seen the other cards. Let me just mind you, let me tell you, we haven't seen the other cards. We don't know what they are, if they're games or anything, but they draw a card, and the card they drew is hide and seek, essentially. And it is awesome. They're making a sequel. Samara Weaving is coming back. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to do it. And it is so much fun. It's a horror thriller. It's not like a slasher movie where it's like super thrillery. It has some quirkiness to it, which is why I love it so much. It has like its comedy beats, its jokiness. Samara Weaving, again, is the lead role. You'll see a couple of other recognizable faces in the movie as well. But yes, Ready or Not, it's available on Hulu. Watch it. It's the perfect time to watch it being October. I'm probably going to watch it later this week. So, if not early next week. Because I haven't watched it yet for spooky season, and I've been wanting to. And now that it's on Hulu, I got to watch it. So, Ready or Not, go watch it. Come back to me. Let me know what you think of it. Because I would love to see if you guys watched it. Booze watched Barbarian after I recommended it on my TikTok and Instagram. Come back to me with your final thoughts. I'm very curious on what you thought of the ending and everything. So there's another one that you guys can watch, but definitely watch Ready or Not first because I love it so much. All right, that is going to wrap up tonight's show, everybody. A lot of discussion. I'm starting to get a little bit tired because it's late here. But I appreciate all of you guys staying with me. The show will not always be this late. Things are rapidly changing here, having a 1-year-old. And so I'm very much trying to adjust and find the right time to do all of this. But I'm doing my best to do it on a weekly basis because I love doing this. And there's enough news to do it and enough topics for me to do it with. So if you guys keep coming back, I will keep coming back. And I appreciate you guys being here every single week. It feels good. So, oh my God. Yeah, it's past my bedtime, you guys. So, thank you guys so much for being here. Have a great rest of your night. Again, go check out Elijah Craig. If you have not, I'll finish off my glass here. Go check out Elijah Craig if you're looking for a good straight bourbon. Very, very strong. Not very strong. Very, very good. I apologize. Not strong. But this is the Elijah Craig small batch. This is what the big bottle looks like. The small bottle is the same, though. It's just in a smaller size. So highly recommend and 100% worth it. So again, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you all. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your week, and I will